We begin today the Gemara on Daf Samach Beis Amud Beis, the very last word, Gufa. The Gemara brings back a statement that was mentioned before. We're discussing Avodah Zarah, and before the discussion was regarding one that serves Avodah Zarah in different ways, whether you'll be chayev for each way separately, a carbon chatas, or because it's all Avodah Zarah, and if it's behela mechad, if it's in one lapse of awareness, so then it'll be chayev one. So here the Gemara now brings another opinion about this that was mentioned already before, according in a Braise, and here the Gemara brings an Amayra. So Guf, the statement that was mentioned before, Omer Rabami. Rabami said, Zibech, v'kiter, v'nisach, behela mechad. If one shechts, burns, and he pours for Avodah Zarah, different activities in worshipping Avodah Zarah, all in one lapse of awareness. He'll only be chayev one carbon chatas for this. Okay, so Rashi points out that there is a girse that says here, includes also another example, hishtachve, he bowed for Avodah Zarah, but Rashi says according to this opinion, you're not going to have to bring for bowing a carbon chatas. Based on what we learned before in the Gemara on Daf Samach Beis, it said that according to this opinion, for hishtachve, it's only a lav. The Torah singles out hishtachava and the Torah just as a lav, and there won't be a carbon chatas. So now Omar Abaye, so Abaye explained, my time with the Rabami. What's the source of Rabami to say that you're only going to be chayiv once? So as I just mentioned, the Gemara before brought a pasuk that the Torah singles out hishtachava to say that you chayiv separately for hishtachava. And earlier on Daf Samach Beis, the Gemara said that Rabbi Yochanan said about this, other Amayraim said about this. Why is the Torah singling out one of the ways of serving Avodah Zarah? To teach you a general klal, that every way you serve Avodah Zarah, you chayiv separately for it. Rabami apparently doesn't hold to this. Rabami says that no, you chayiv for all ways, you'll be chayiv only once. So what's the source? Why doesn't he learn out from Ishtachava to divide that you would be chayiv each one separately? So Abaye says, my time the Rabami on Makra, because there's an extra pasuk by Avodah Zarah, and it says, Loisa Ovden, you should not serve Avodah Zarah. And over here, it includes all ways of serving Avodah Zarah as one. Hakasav and kulam Avodah achas. The Torah considers all of them to be as one. It's an extra pasuk. Other Rishonim say it's not only because it's an extra pasuk, but it says a plural term, loisa of daim, including all ways of serving Avodah Zarah as one. So if you serve Avodah Zarah in many different ways with one hell and with one lapse of awareness, you're going to be chayiv one carbon chatas. Abaye is explaining Ravami this way, but does Abaye agree with this? Abaye himself said, the Torah spells out 3 different times that one should not bow to Avodah Zarah. Rashi here brings, one is Naseres Adibris, Leisishtachve lehem. Another time it says, Leisishtachve le'elacher. And a third time, Leisishtachve le'leheim. 3 times. So why does it say this? Achas lekedarka. One is to tell you that you should not bow down to Avodah Zarah if it's the derech of serving this Avodah Zarah this way. Achas, another time it comes to say l'shaloi kedarka, that even if you bow to Avodah Zarah when it's not the way it's usually designated to serve it, you'll still be chayev for this. And v'achas l'chalik. And the third time it's coming to single out ishtachva, to divide one way of serving Avodah Zarah from another, that you'll be chayev a separate carbon chatas for each one of them. So here I see that Abaye says that the Torah singled out hishtachava l'chalik, that you will be chayev a separate carbon chatas for each one. So the Gemara says, Ledvarav the Rabami Kahama. Abaye, he brought the pasuk of Loisa Avdeim. He was saying this as a drasha to explain Rabami's opinion, that you'll be chayev only once, but Valele Svirale. Abaye himself didn't hold to this. Now the Gemara explains Abaye's statement itself. Gufa, what is the statement that Abaye said? Amar Abaye, Shalosh Shtachvos B'Avedis Kechavim. The Torah writes 3 times the expression of Shtachava B'Avedis Zarah. So Lama, why? Achas L'Kedarka. 1, you're serving it the way it's to be served. V'achas L'Shalei Kedarka. V'achas L'Chalik. Okay, so the Gemara asks on this, L'Kedarka, he's telling me the first time the Torah spells out Shtachava, it's to say that you would be chayiv a carbon chatos, or misa, if you serve it kedarka, but why do you need a pasuk for that? The pasuk that it says, the Gemara quoted it before, that it says when Yidden come into Eretz Yisrael, they're going to want to follow the Goyim, and they'll say, let's see how Goyim serve Avodah Zarah. It's in that pasuk that you see that if you're going to serve like the Goyim, you're going to inquire by the Goyim, how do you serve this Avodah Zarah, and you serve it that way, then you're chayiv. So we see here that if you serve an Avodah Zarah the way it's intended to be served, then you'll be chayiv for this. So why do I need a shtachava for this? And says the Gemara, Elo, so to correct what Abaye said it's as follows. Achas kedarka v'shalei kedarka. The first time the Torah spells out Ishtachava, it's coming to tell you regarding a case where you're serving the Avodah Zarah, which it's somewhat the way it's served, but it's not completely the way it's served. What does this mean? So Rashi explains, if this is an Avodah Zarah that's served in different ways to express honor for the Avodah Zarah. So now Hishtachava is another way of expressing honor. So even if it's not the specific way of expressing honor for this Avodah Zarah, but you'll be chayiv for the Hishtachava, because in some sense it's still Kedarka. It's not completely Shalei Kedarka. That's the first thing. Then Va'achas, and the Torah writes another time Hishtachava to teach me L'Shalei Kedarka, when one serves Avodah Zarah when it's completely not the way it's to be served. And this is, for example, as Rashi says, when we mentioned before, Avodah Zarah is like Pa'oir and Markulis. The way they're served is by doing an act which is actually degrading. And when one bows down to this Avodah Zarah, it's totally not Kedarka at all. Even then, you'll be chayiv for bowing down as well. And then the third time, Va'achas L'chalik, the third time is mentioned is to make a division between one way and another way of serving Avodah Zarah, that you'll be chayiv a separate korban chatos for each one of them. Going back to the Mishnah, it said, Amekabloi olav beleah, ha'emer loy eliata, one that says, he accepts or he says, this is my Avodah Zarah, you'll be chayiv misa for this as well. When one says to the Avodah Zarah, you are my Avodah Zarah, chayiv, you'll be chayiv for this. So the Gemara says, what was Rav saying here? Lamai, chayiv what? If he came to say you'll be chayiv misa, masnisani, it's exactly what it says in the Mishnah. Ella, rather what he came to say is lekarbin. He's speaking about one that says this, and he doesn't know that this is asa, so this is being done b'shoigig. And Rav came to say that it would be chayiv a korban chatos. So the Mishnah was talking about b'meizid, when it's chayiv misa, and Rav came to say that it would be chayiv a korban chatos just for the words that he says as well. Now the Gemara asks on this, is that true according to everybody's opinion? Even the Rabbanon would say that he would be chayav a korban chatos. So the Gemara here will bring the Braisa where we see that according to the Rabbanon, a korban chatos does not apply in such a kind of case. V'hatanya, in a Braisa it says, Einei chayiv ela al dova sheyesh bei maisa. You only bring a korban chatos for an aveda that there's an action in it. And the source for this is, Rashi brings, by a korban chatos, the pasuk says, Va'asa achas mikom mitzvos Hashem. So it says Va'asa. Only if you did an action, b'shoigig, that's when you bring a korban chatos. So by Avodah Zarah, what would that mean? Kagoin zibuach, v'kitor, v'nisoch. If you shecht, you burn or you pour, v'ishtachva. And it also mentions ishtachva, when you bow down. So as we'll see here in the continuation of the Gemara, hishtachava is not considered to be a full-fledged, concrete action. Because hishtachava is different than other actions. The other actions that it mentions is when you do an action with a specific object. Hishtachava is just bending a person's body. So it's similar to the action of saying words. Just like when you say words, you're not touching any other object, it's just the movement of your lips. Similar, hishtachava is just bending the person's body, so it's not really a full-fledged action. It's what?
It's Kedarka.
No, we're not discussing here now Kedarka, Shalei Kedarka. Let's say it is Kedarka, or even that's not the discussion here. Even over here, these cases, Zivuch, Kitur, Nisuch, Yichayv, even Shalei Kedarka, because these are avodas that are done inside the Beis Hamikdash. That's not the discussion. The question is, for a korban chatos, you have to have a maisa. But the question is, what degree of a maisa? What level of a maisa? So in this Braisa it says, Hishtachava, that bowing is also included in the maisa. Now, on this Reish Lakish said, Man Tanish Tachava. Who's the Tana of this Braisa that says that even just bowing is significant enough of an action that you'll be chayiv for this? And he answered Rabbi Kivi. It's Rabbi Kivi's opinion. Because the Amar, Rabbi Kiva said, Loi be'inan ma'isa. You don't need mamish, a full-fledged action. You need an action. Just a thought alone will not be a reason to be chayiv a korban chatos. But it has to be some action, even a small action, even an action like talking or an action like bowing. That's Rabbi Kiva. So what do I understand from what Reish Lakish said here? The Rabbanan Savri, Rabbanan's opinion is Ba'inan Maisa. You need a more concrete action that you do with an object, not just the movement of the lips or the movement of the body. So if so, Rav here that said that you're going to be chayav a korban chatos when one just says words with his mouth, that he's mekabel this Avodah Zarah as his Avodah Zarah. So how could Rav say that it would be chayav korban chatos according to everybody? According to the Rabbanon, that's not enough of an action to be chayav. So the Gemara says, you're right, Kika Amar Rav. When Rav says, Yechayev a korban chatos, Nami, so let Rabbi Kiva kama. He was only saying this according to Rabbi Kiva. So the Gemara asks, but if that's the case, Rabbi Akiva pshita, Rabbi Akiva, it's obvious that you would be chayav a korban chatlas when one accepts avodah zarah with his words, and he says that this is my avodah zarah. So it's obvious that he would be chayav. Hainu megadev. It's the same thing like one that's megadev, blaspheming, which is one that blesses Hashem's name, the opposite of blessing Hashem's name. And there, it says clearly that. According to Rabbi Akiva, in such a case, you would be chayav a korban chatas. Why would I think that this is different? What was the chiddush of Rav over here? So the Gemara explains there is a chiddush here. Ma'al detema, because I would think to say ad kanle mechayav Rabbi Akiva korban ela b'megadif. By a megadif, one that blesses Hashem's name, there Rabbi Akiva says just with words alone, which is a small ma'aseh, the movement of the lips, you'll be chayav for this because the chsiv bekoros. In the pasuk by the Megadif, the Torah clearly writes the chiyuv of koros, and the rule by korban chatas is that it has to be something that b'mezid you'd be chayav koros, then b'shreigig you bring a korban chatas. Aval hacha dolei ksiv bei koros. But over here, regarding what we're talking about, one that accepts an avodah zarah as an avodah zarah, it doesn't say in the pasuk any koros for this. So I would say that over here for this, even though there is some action that according to Rabbi Akiva is enough, but since in the Torah it doesn't say a chiyuv koros for this, so I would think that you don't bring a korban chatas. So kamash malon, that's why Rav is saying that according to Rabbi Akiva there is a korban chatas, and what's the reason? Because the iskushi iskush. Because there's a pasuk where we see that serving of a desire with an action, and then saying just with words that you're accepting this avodah zarah as your avodah zarah, these two are compared. That you bring for a korban chatas for both. Where do I see this hakish? By the egel, the chsiv. It says there, vayishtachavu loy. They bowed, and then it says vayizbuchu loy. They shechted for it, so that's a full-fledged action that you chayav the korban chatas for. And then it says vayomru. They said, as the pasuk that goes on, what did the Yidden then said? V'yomru eile lehecha Yisrael ashalucha meretz Mitzrayim. So the pasuk is putting the two together. That just like by a full-fledged action of serving avodah zarah, there's a chiyuv koros and a chatos. So too, regarding one that accepts and says eile lehecha Yisrael, there's a koros if it's b'mezid, and there'll be a chatos if it's b'shegig. That was the chiddush of Rav here. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Now, since we brought up this pasuk, so Rabbi Yochanan says about what happened by the egel. The lashon of the pasuk, it said that the Yidden said, "Eila Elohecha Yisrael Asher He'elucha Meretz Mitzrayim." So he says, "Ilmale Vav Shebe'elucha." If not for that letter Vav in the word He'elucha, which makes the word into plural, right? If it would have said He'elcha, that would be lashon yachid. That they're saying to the avodah zarah, the egel, that you have brought us up out of Mitzrayim. It said He'elucha, that they have brought us up out of Mitzrayim. So if not for that Vav in this word, this Chayvu Rishaim Shel Yisrael Kloya. Then the Rishayim of the Yidden, referring to Yidden, the Yidden would be chayiv all to be annihilated. Right. So the point here is that even when the Yidden served the Egel, and they said that the Egel took us out of Mitzrayim, they said together with Hashem. So this is what's called shittuf. They served the avodah zarah, but they didn't deny Hashem's existence as well. That He took them out of Mitzrayim. If though the Yidden would have said helcha without that vav, then it would be referring just to the egel. Then there's no shittuf here. Then it's just the egel that would be denying Hashem's existence. Then there would be chayiv complete annihilation. Says the Gemara, this interpretation of Rabbi Yochanan, there's a machlokes about this, and he's following one opinion. Kitanoi, what he said is there's a machlokes tanoim about this. Acherim say, like Rabbi Yochanan said, if not for that vav in this word, the Yidden would be annihilated. Now, Rab Shimon ben Yochai said a different shot. V'haloi kol ha-mishatev shem shamayim v'dova acher neker min ha'olam. One that combines the name of Hashem together with another avodah zarah, he's uprooted from the world. So you can't say the fact that the Yidden said Halucha Lashon Rabim, that they combined Hashem together with the Egel to say that they took us out of Mitzrayim, that's enough of a reason that the Yidden were not annihilated. Because no, in such a case, a person should be Nekram in Olam. Shanem, as the pasuk says, when it says about avodah zarah, the beginning of the pasuk over there, it says Vayvech Lalehim Yachram, and then it says Bilti Lashem Levadei. Only to Hashem Himself, meaning you can't combine any other power on any avodah zarah together with Hashem, even shittuf. By a Yid, you're Nekram in Olam. This is by Yidden, the Isser of Shittuf. There's a discussion regarding Goyim, regarding the Isser of Shittuf by Goyim. It's brought also in Chassidus, this idea that according to the Ramah, by Goyim, there's no Isser of Shittuf, only a Isser of Avodah Zarah. We were learning before about the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. One of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach is not to serve Avodah Zarah, to believe in Hashem. There's a machlokes whether that includes also Shittuf. But regarding by Yidden over here, the pasuk is saying that even just Shittuf, combining another power together with Hashem, so then Nekram and Olam. So what is the pshat over here when it says ha'alucha with the plural term? Elamat tamad lo mashe alucha she'ivu elahos harbe. That the Yidden wanted to have other powers as well. So this is not the Indian of Shittuf. This ivu elahos harbe means that they wanted to have other powers in creation as well that should support them, that should help the Eibishter also. Kaviyachol chas v'shalom. In other words, the way the Yidden said this is like the way the Rambam describes the way Avodah Zarah developed in the beginning. How did Avodah Zarah develop? That they saw the powers in nature, and they said that the Eibusher gave over to the powers of nature to conduct matters in the world. So the Yidden also said that together with the Eibusher, there's other powers in the world that also are controlling things. But not that there was no Isser of Shittuf over here, that they said that there's another Avodah Zarah, that they're Meshatif together with the Eibusher, but rather they said that there's other powers in the world as well that we can get our source from for what we need. That's why the Yidden were not annihilated, because it's not shittuf. It's less than that.
How do you translate shittuf?
The word shittuf means like a partner, or to combine, a partnership, to combine together with Hashem. Correct? Yeah. Okay, the Gemara goes back to what it said in the Mishnah: Aval hamegafif, hamenashik, hamechabed, hamerabetz chulu. One that hugs or kisses or cleans the Avodah Zarah, or he settles the dust in front of Avodah Zarah. All these actions that are done for the Avodah Zarah. And these are not things that are done for the Avodah Zarah in Kedarka. It's not the way it's served. But nevertheless, he's doing this for the honor of the Avodah Zarah. So in all these cases, the Mishnah says, you get Malkus. In all these cases we just mentioned, you get Malkus. But then there's what the Mishnah said afterwards. Chutz, except the case that the Mishnah says afterwards, when one makes a neder in the name of Avodah Zarah, or someone takes an oath in the name of the Avodah Zarah, that's mentioned in the Mishnah as well, that it's a lav, for that you do get Malkus. Or again, for that you do not get Malkus. But for the other cases mentioned, you do get Malkus. So the Gemara asks on this, in a case that one takes a vow or an oath and with the name of Avodah Zarah, he does not get Malkus. What's the reason for this? Because making a neder or a shvuah with the name of Avodah Zarah, there's no action involved, and the rule is that when you are over on a lav and there's no action, so then there's no chiyuv of malchus. If so, hani nami, the other cases that are mentioned in the Mishnah as well before regarding megafif, menashik, mechabed, and merabetz, lav shebachlolasu. That's considered to be a general lav. It doesn't spell out any of these cases in the Torah. It's all learned from one pasuk, and it's a general lav. If it's a general lav, the rule is ve'ein loikin alav shebachlalas. If there's a lav which is an action, but the Torah does not say the isser of this action specifically, it's included all in one pasuk, then the rule is you don't get malchus for this. The Tanya, so we learned in the Braise, and the Gemara brings here now the source of another example of a lav shebachlalas. One pasuk which serves as a source for different isurim that are included all in one pasuk, and because of this, because it's one pasuk that's a source for many different things, you don't get a malchus for any of the isurim that are included in this pasuk. So the Braisa says as follows: how do I know if after you shechted the animal, but the life of the animal did not let you leave yet, and you go and you eat from it even before it's completely dead? How do you know that you're over and alav? Talmud Leima, the pasuk says, you should not eat on blood. Blood means the life of the animal, when the life of the animal is still there. That's one shot. Another thing that you learn out from the very same pasuk, this refers to karbanis. You can't, the kohen or the people can't eat from a carbon if the blood that you have of that from the carbon is still in the vessel and it has not been sprayed on the mizbeach yet. The dam is not used yet. That's the second thing you learn. A third thing you learn out from here, from here you know that when Bezdin gives someone a chiyav miseh, that you don't give the sudas avra. This is after one passes away, and then when they're still in the street, you give to the avelim a special suda, but by haruge Bezdin, they don't serve this meal. You shouldn't eat, you shouldn't serve this meal regarding a person that died by the Bezdin, even though it doesn't spell it out in the pasuk, but Rashi says, misvara, we understand that this is what the pasuk is talking about. Rabbi Kiva Aimer, another thing, a fourth thing that you learn from this pasuk, Rabbi Kiva says, Sanhedrin shahargu sanefesh. How do I know that a Sanhedrin that paskin and they killed somebody? How do we know she'ein toim and klum kolei sayim? They're not supposed to eat that entire day. Talmud Leima, we learn from the very same pasuk, le'seichel al adam. Do not eat on the blood that the Bezdin paskin on that day. And then one more thing you learn out from this pasuk. Rabbi Yochanan, what do you learn out from this pasuk? Azhara leben seired umayda minayin. The warning for a ben seired umayda, as we'll learn later in the Masechta, that's chayiv misa. Where is there a warning for this ben seired umayda? One that's by about bar mitzvah age, and he does things that are very wild and so on. Then you have to give him misa. Where do you see a warning? You can't give a misa without a warning. Talmud leima lo yisaychlu al adam. He shouldn't eat. This is a ben seired umayda. He eats meat, then he drinks wine. He does things that are very wild that will cause him to die. Will cause his blood to be spilled. This is the warning in this pasuk. So the point is, the Torah wrote this lashon of l'saychlo al adam in a way that is not clear what those words l'saychlo al adam means. The Torah specifically wrote it in this vague manner in order to include all these 5 interpretations in these words of l'saychlo al adam. So now on this, so on all these things that we learn from the same pasuk, you don't get malchus, because you learn it out from one pasuk. So since it's one general law that includes all of it, so you don't get malchus on this. So if so, the question over here is, why are we saying that megafif, menashik, mechabed, merabis, which are different ways of serving avodah zarah that are all learned from one pasuk, leisa avdem? Why are we saying that you get a malchus for them if it's learned from one general lav? So Ella says the Gemara, ki asa Ravin amen Rabbi Lazar. When Ravin came, so he said in the name of Rabbi Lazar, actually the opposite of what Rav Dimi said before. That al kulan ein eloike, on all these that the Mishnah mentions, the way one serves avodah zarah, you don't get malchus because it's a general lav. Chutz min anayde b'shmei v'mekayim b'shmei. When one makes a vow in the name of avodah zarah or an oath in the name of avodah zarah, for this you do get malchus. So now the Gemara asks the question on this as well. So you don't get malchus for any of these details the Mishnah mentions here because it's all included in a general lav. If so, hani nami lav shein by ma'asininu. So if someone makes a neder or an oath with the name of avodah zarah, there's also a reason you shouldn't get malchus because there's no action. It's a lav shein by ma'asin, and the rule is you don't get malchus for this. And says the Gemara, hahu kerab Yehuda. This statement of Ravin that he said in the name of Rabbi Lazar is following Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. The Amar, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is lav she'em by ma'isa, even a lav, even without an action, like an olav. There is malchus for this. Where do we see that this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda? So we find this by Naisar. The Tanya, the pasuk says, lo yisiru mimenu ad baiker, by a carbon that you have a day and a night or 2 days and a night to eat from the carbon, and you shouldn't leave over until the morning. And then the pasuk that goes on to say, what happens if you leave over till the morning? And then you have to burn it. So Rabbi Yehuda said, the Torah there gives you an essa after it says the lois essa that you shouldn't leave over until the morning. Then it says the mitzvah say what you do if you do leave over till the morning. It's coming to tell you that if you are over on the lav, you're not going to get malchus, but rather it tells you what you have to do about it. This is what's called a lav hanitik la'aseh. The Torah says you have to burn what you leave over, and that's why you don't get malchus. This is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Now Rav Yaakov says on this, this is not the reason why you don't get malchus in this case, when you leave over from a carbon. Elo, the reason is, leaving over from a carbon, there's no action that the person did in the Yisra, he just left it over. He didn't do anything. Therefore you don't get malchus. If there's no action, you don't get malchus for this. So now what do we see here? The cloud, Rabbi Yehuda Savar, like and all of the fact that Rabbi Yehuda gave the reason that you don't get malchus by Naisar is only because it's a lav anitik laseh. I see that Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that otherwise you would get malchus for this, and that's why here, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when one accepts avodah zarah just with words, he'll get malchus on this as well. Now here the Gemara brings the source for this itself. Where is Taka the Lav? Where is the Lav not to make a neder? Sorry, we're not talking about accepting avodah zarah. We're talking about making a neder. Where is the Lav of one making a neder in the name of avodah zarah or an oath in the name of avodah zarah? So it said in the Mishnah, Hanayd b'shmai v'amekayim b'shmai hareza b'lo yiseseh. So what's the source for this? Says the Gemara, Hanayd b'shmai v'amekayim b'shmai minalong. Where do I see this in the Torah? The Tanya, it says in the Braise, when it says in the pasuk v'shem elahim acherim lo yisaskiru. What does that mean? That there's a lav. One may not say to his friend, Shmoirli b'tzad avodas kachavim ploinus. Wait for me, I'll meet you at this avodah zarah. You're not allowed to say, make up a meeting spot, and you say to the person, where are we going to meet by this avodah zarah? Then the pasuk there goes on to say, Lo yishama al pichot, should not be heard on your mouth. What does this mean? Shel yadu b'shmai. You're not allowed to make a vow in the name of avodah zarah. V'lo yikayim b'shmai. You're not to make an oath in the name of avodah zarah. V'loi yigraim. Another thing we darshan from this pasuk is also v'loi yigraim la'achedim sheyidmu b'shmoi v'yikaimu b'shmoi. You don't cause others to make a vow or to take an oath in the name of Avodah Zarah, because it doesn't say only lo yishma. It says lo yishama. It should not be heard al picha, through your mouth, through you. So you shouldn't cause someone else as well to do this. So what does this mean? That means that the Gemara will soon explain that you shouldn't have any partnership with a guy, and then you will cause him to take an oath in the name of Avodah Zarah. Davar acher, another pshat, the Braisa here says, what does this mean? Lo yisham al picha, azhare lemesis ulemediach. This is a warning. This is the source of the warning for one that's mesis or mediach, one that convinces others to serve Avodah Zarah. Whereas it says in the title the punishment for this, but here this pasuk is the warning for. So the Gemara asks them that on the last pshat here, mesis behed yiksivbei. The warning regarding one that convinces others to serve Avodah Zarah. There's a clear warning in the Torah. It says v'chol Yisrael yishmu v'yiro. This is where it speaks about killing one that convinces others to serve Avodah Zarah, and the pasuk there goes on to say v'lo yisifu lasis kedavar az bekerbecha. So there's a clear warning in the Torah for this. Ella says the Gemara azhara lemediach. Mesis is one that convinces an individual to serve Avodah Zarah. Then there's the mediach, one that convinces a city to serve Avodah Zarah. That's the Yirani Dachas, and there is no clear warning in the Torah. And here it's this pasuk which is the warning for this. Now going back to another detail that it said in the Braisa, v'lo yigraim la'acherim sheyidru b'shmoi v'sheyikaimu b'shmoi, that we learn from the term that the pasuk says lo yishama, that you shouldn't cause others to make a vow or to take an oath with the name of Avodah Zarah. So what does this mean? So the Gemara says misayele la'avua d'Shmuel. What we're saying here is a proof to what the father of Shmuel said. The father of Shmuel said, Osir la'adam sheyaseh shutfes emoevet kechavim. You may not have a partnership together with a guy that serves Avodah Zarah. Why not? Because Shema Yischayev lo yishvua. Maybe in the business, this guy, when there's a question of what the money and whether he took money from you or not, so maybe this guy will have to swear for you that he didn't take from you. And then, and because of this, you will cause him that he will swear in the name of his Avodah Zarah for you. And the Torah says, that it should not be heard through you, it should not be heard on his mouth, that he should serve, that he should make a shvua in his Avodah Zarah for you. Okay, there's a discussion over here in Taisvis about this. Taisvis says that Bisman Hazeh, Avodah Zarah, Taisvis says that Bisman Hazeh, it's not a problem. Their kavan is not exactly Avodah Zarah. That's what Taisvis says. So Bisman Hazeh, it's not a problem. The shutfis together with a guy. Yeah, huh? Yeah, it's not. Yeah, okay. There's a discussion in the Rishayim about this. Taisvis over here brings up this Indian. Okay, ki asa ula. Now, in connection to this point there, not to mention the name of Avodah Zarah, not to make a meeting place and to mention the name of Avodah Zarah. So the Gemara brings when Ula came to Bavel, so Bas beKalnavai, he slept overnight in a city called Kalnavai. Now Amalei Rava asked him, Veheche Basmar, where did you sleep? Amalei beKalnavai. So he told him, I slept in the city with the name of Kalnavai. Now, this name, Nevoi, it says Kal Nevoi, but the name Nevoi is a name of Avodah Zarah. So Amalei, Rava told him, Vaksiv, V'shem Elohim Acherim Leisaskiro. Now that I have mentioned the name of an Avodah Zarah, so if I ask you, where did you sleep, and the name of the city is the name of Avodah Zarah, so you shouldn't say the name of Avodah Zarah. Amalei, so Ola answered him, Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Kol Avodas Kechava Maksuva B'Torah. Any name of Avodah Zarah that's written in a pasuk in Torah, Mutal ask Shema. You are allowed to mention its name. And Avaha Hecha Ksiva, where does it say this Avodah Zarah of Nevai in the Torah? The Chsiv, because there's a pasuk where it says Kara Beil Kaires Nevai. So it is the Nevai. It's a pasuk in Yeshai where it says this name of this Avodah Zarah. So therefore, he was allowed to mention the name of this Avodah Zarah, the name of the city where he slept. But the Gemara asked, and if it's not a name that's written in a pasuk, you're not allowed to mention it. But Masav Rav Mesharshia asks from the following Mishnah, where in a Mishnah it mentions a name of Avodah Zarah, and seemingly it's a name of Avodah Zarah that's not mentioned in the Torah. What's the name of Avodah Zarah that's mentioned? Ra Re'iyah Achas Merubeh K'Shalish. Regarding the halacha of a zav, in order for the zav is an emission from the body that makes a person tamei. Only if a person has 3 emissions do you become a zav gomer, a full zav, which has to wait 7 days and then bring a carbon. So what's if a person sees one long emission that lasts as long as 3 re'iyas are? Now, how long does that have to be? It has to be one emission with a break, which would be to toivel and go to the mikveh, and then another re'iyah, and then another break to go to the mikveh, and then a third re'iyah. That's how long this one re'iyah has to be, this one emission that should be counted as 3. So the Mishnah there describes, if a person saw one re'iyah, one emission that's very long, kishalish re'iyah, that's as long as 3 emissions. And the Mishnah gives a shear of how long this would be. Shehi kimigadyain l'shilai. And that's as long as it would take to travel from Megadyan to Shilai. Now Megadyan is the name of a place of Avodah Zarah. Now, and then the Mishnah says, Shehein shtei tvilais ushnei svugin. It includes the re'iyah, the emission, and also the time that it would be to taivel and then to dry yourself. Harez zav gomer. That's the zav. That's then, even if it's one emission, you'll be a zav gomer. It's equivalent to 3 different emissions. Okay, so now, but the question here is, the Mishnah says Megadyan, the name of Avodah Zarah. Amar Avine, God Nami Michtav Ksivi. This Avodah Zarah that's mentioned here is also an Avodah Zarah that's mentioned in the pasuk. The Chsiv Ha'erchem Gad Legad Shulchan. They prepare for God, which is an Avodah Zarah, our table. So since it's Avodah Zarah that's mentioned in the Torah, so therefore it's an Avodah Zarah that's allowed to be mentioned. Amar Rav Nachman said, Kol Litzenusa Asira, any kind of mockery, Litzanis, is not allowed. Besides, when one makes a mockery out of Avodah Zarah, that's allowed, the Sharia. And as we see, the pasuk itself, when it mentions Avodah Zarah, it makes a mockery out of Avodah Zarah. The Chsiv, the pasuk we quoted before, Kara Beil Kairis Nevai, which means that, as the Gemara quotes another pasuk that it says there regarding this, Karsu, Karu, Yachtov, La Yuchlo Malit Maseh. What this means is that it's making a mockery out of the Avodah Zarah, that it can't contain itself, that it can't hold its load, and it splashes out, and it everything that it has inside of its body. So it's all a mockery of the Avodah Zarah. That's what you see here from this pasuk. Another place where you see that the pasuk mentions Avodah Zarah and it makes a mockery out of it. Uksiv, the pasuk says, Dibru Dvarim. They said words. Le'eglois beis oven. The eglois by the house of oven. Yoguru. They're afraid of it. This is the Avodah Zarah. Shchein Shemrain. The ones that live by Shemrain. Ki Evel Olav Amai, the people are mourning for the Avodah Zarah that was taken away from them. Ukumarav Olav Yagilu Al Kvaidai, and the priests, they're Yagilu, they're happy about its honor. Ki Gola Mimena, that was exiled from it. So here it says in the pasuk the word Kvaidai, but the Gemara says Al Tikri Kvaidai Al Kvaidai. The way it's supposed to be read is Kvaidai, means the heaviness of the Avodah Zarah, and the pasuk is mocking the Avodah Zarah that it's heavy and it can't contain its own load. That's where we see the source of this concept, to make a mockery out of Avodah Zarah. So to go back a second to what the Gemara said before, that Rabbi Yochanan said the rule that an Avodah Zarah, that its name is mentioned in the Torah, you're allowed to mention that name of Avodah Zarah. And that's why by Ula, when he said, I slept over in a city, he mentioned the name Nevai, even though it's a name of Avodah Zarah, because it's mentioned in the Torah. So the Rebbe in the Sicha and Chelik Chav Gimel and Parshas Balak brings up this Gemara, and the question is, just because it's mentioned in the Torah, you're allowed to mention it? If the point is not to mention Avodah Zarah, we don't want to give any significance to Avodah Zarah, so why, if it's mentioned in the Torah, are you allowed to mention it? So the Rebbe there brings from the Yereim, one of the Rishonim, that says that if it's mentioned in the Torah, that means that this Avodah Zarah is bottle, and therefore you're allowed to mention it. And the Rebbe teaches it doesn't necessarily mean that Avodah Zarah is actually bottle. We find the Mashal Pa'ir is not an Avodah Zarah that's bottle and it's mentioned in the Torah. But what it means is that the way the Torah mentions it is to be mevatalit. The Torah is mentioning Avodah Zarah in order to destroy the Avodah Zarah. And like we see here, in continuation, the Gemara it talks about the Lutzanis of Avodah Zarah. That's how the Psukim speak about Avodah Zarah. So therefore, Ula and also the Mishnah that Rav Misharshia quotes, it's not only that it's a heter to mention the Avodah Zarah that's written in the Torah, but it's actually, he dafka mentioned it, and he actually added Kal Nevoi. Kal means light and nothing. He wanted to embarrass the Avodah Zarah. If you mention the Avodah Zarah the way it's mentioned in the Torah, you're mentioning the bittul of the Avodah Zarah, to destroy the Avodah Zarah. And that's why, in this way, you're allowed to mention the Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Yitzchak said, "My dechsiv." What's the meaning of the pasuk where it says, "Va'ata yisifu lachtoi"? And then the Yidden continued, and they sinned with Avodah Zarah. Vayasale maseicha mikaspom. They made a molten Avodah Zarah from their silver, kitfu nasam, like its shape. Atzabim v'goymet. It's Avodah Zarah that they prepared. What does this mean? My kitfu nasam atzabim. Malamed, what it tells us is regarding the Avodah Zarah in that time, Shekol Echad Ve'echad Asad Mus Yerasai. They made this little Avodah Zarah for themselves, little picture of Avodah Zarah for themselves. Umanicha Bekisa, they had it in their pockets. And B'Shah Shezoichra, when they remember it, Maitzim Etecheka, they took it out of their pockets. Umachapka Menashka, they would kiss and hug the Avodah Zarah. Therefore, it said that's what it means here. Kitfunasam. Some say you have to. It's read kitmunasam. The bays switch with the mem. They made a picture of Avodah Zarah and they had it with themselves in the pocket. What is the meaning of the pasuk where it goes on there to say zoivchei adam? They slaughter a person. Agolim yushakun. The agolim. They kiss the agolim, which is Avodah Zarah. Rav Yitzchak the Beir Abami. So Rav Yitzchak the Beir Abami explained this pasuk. What they did was shahayu misharse avodas kechavim neisnen einayim babali mamin. They were the ones that took care of the Avodah Zarah, and they saw rich people, and they wanted to have the money from the rich people. So what did they do? Umarivim esa agolim. So these agolim, these calves, which were Avodah Zarah, they would starve them. V'oisin demus hatzabim umamidim b'tzad evuseyan. So then what they would do is they would make a picture of these rich people that they wanted their money, and they would put the picture of these rich people near the food where these calves would be eating from it. And then, so now these calves had this impression of these people that they saw by the food that they ate, and then afterwards they did not give them to eat. They allowed the calves to go out. And so now what happened is these rich people, when they saw these rich people walking by, they allowed these calves to go out to these rich people, and now these calves thought that these rich people, they're the ones that give me the food, and they would run after them, and they would come to their feet to try to get food from them. So then the Misharsim of the Avodah Zarah would then say to these rich people, look, Avodas Kechavim Chavitz B'cha. Look how the Avodah Zarah is running specifically to you, and he wants you. Yavai v'yizbach atzmei, come and slaughter yourself for the Avodah Zarah. And then they would slaughter themselves. They would kill themselves for the Avodah Zarah, and then they would take their money. That's the type of the pasuk that it's saying here, Zoivchei Adam, that they would slaughter these rich people, Agolim Yushakin. How? Because they caused these Agolim to go and kiss up to their feet. And that's how they caused them to come and be slaughtered themselves over the Zara, and they took their money. That's a Taish's pasuk. Rava said about this pshat that the order in the pasuk should be the opposite. Hi, Zoivchei Adam, Agolim Yushakin. According to you, it says here that the people were slaughtered, and the agolim, the calves, kissed up to their feet. It should be the opposite. Agolim yushakun, that the misharsim of Avodah Zarah caused that the calves should go out, kiss up to their feet, and the lizbayach adam. That's what caused that they got slaughtered for the Avodah Zarah. That's the order that the pasuk should have said. So therefore Rava says the pshat on this pasuk is different. That then, in those times when they slaughtered their children for Avodah Zarah, they would say to the person that slaughtered his person for his children for Avodah Zarah, Daira and Gadol ha'ikriv lo, you brought a big gift for the Avodah Zarah, Yaviv Yishak le, come and kiss the Avodah Zarah. Rav Yehuda said, Rav, in the name of Rav, Va'anshe Bavel, this is bringing here in the times of the first Beis HaMikdash, when Sanhedrin, so he exiled 10 of the Shvatim of the Yidden, Aseres HaShvatim, out of Eretz Yisrael, and instead he brought other Goyim to Eretz Yisrael. So it says, V'anshi Bavel, when they came to Eretz Yisrael, also as Sukkais Bonis. They made Avodah Zarah in the shapes of Sukkais Bonis. What does this mean? My niu, what is this? Tarnagolis. They made Avodah Zarah in the shape of a hen. That's a Sukkais Bonis in Aramaic, refers to a hen. Then V'anshe Kut, these are the Kutim that he brought to Eretz Yisrael, also as Nargal. They made it of a Zarah in the shape of a Nargal. My niu or Tarnagal, shape of a rooster. And it says V'anshe Chemas, also as Hashima. What does this mean? My niu Barcha Karcha. They made of a Zarah in the shape of a Barcha Karcha, which refers to a goat. Barcha is Bechlal sheep, and Karcha means that it has no hairs, which refers to a goat. It doesn't have the hairs like a lamb. Then it says V'ha'avim also as Navchan v'es Tartak. They made it in a Avodah Zarah that's like a Navchan and a Tartak. What does this refer to? My niu Kelev v'chamayr. The Navchan is the one that barks like a dog, and Tartak refers to a donkey that carries a load on both of its sides. That's what the Tartak refers to a load. And then V'ha'safrovim sarfim es b'neim be'eish. They burnt their children in fires. Hu tel adramelech v'anamelech. Elehei Safravayim. This was the Avodah Zarah of the Safravayim. Now, my niu, what Avodah Zarah did they make? Haperet v'asus, a mule and a horse. Where do I see this in this lashon of Adra Melech and Ana Melech? That's the name of the two Avodah Zaros. Adra Melech means the Aderle Lemare B'Teina, a mule. So he serves his master in a beautiful way that he accepts a load on himself. That's what a mule is. So that's why they named this Avodah Zarah, this mule, with the word Adra Melech. Ana Melech is a horse because the Anile Lemare B'Krava. A horse is available for his master in a time to go out into battle. And that's why it was called Ana Melech, that he answers, he's available for his king in a time of battle. Now, Av Chizkiah, Melech Yehuda. In those times, he didn't serve Avodah Zarah, and that was even Chizkiah, which was a Melech, the king of Yehuda, Bikish Aviv, his father, which was Achaz, and he served Avodah Zarah. So his father wanted Lasis Lekein. He wanted to do for his son the same thing, to put him in a fire for Avodah Zarah. His mother saved his life because his mother went and applied over his entire body this from a salamandra, from the blood of a salamandra. Rashi here says this salamandra, I don't know what it is today, but this is actually, yeah, okay, it's not translated as a salamander, but it's not the regular salamander. It's this little creature that comes out of an oven that it has a fire burning for 7 years. That's what Rashi says. And you take the blood from this and you apply it on the person. It makes you fireproof. Yeah, it doesn't burn the person. So that's what his mother did to him, and therefore his father could not burn him for Avodah Zarah. Okay, yeah,
all this happened at the sword.
Yeah, that's all in the time of the first Beis Hamikdash.